So first thing I want to do, guys, is kind of go back and show you what your assignments were the last couple of days to make sure you've got those done. If you haven't, you're going to have some time to do that. Not today. Well, you may have some time today. But if you remember, guys, on Friday of last week, we talked about this unit. We were setting the stage for two huge events that are going to happen in the 1900s, that being World War I and World War II. Okay? So when we start this out, we notice that when you started doing the work, you were doing it on influences in Africa. So you had two assignments. Your assignment on Monday was the Show Me the Evidence. Okay, so it was a Google Docs. Did anybody have trouble opening it? Anybody have trouble submitting that one? Haven't had anybody say they had trouble with that one. All right, the next one was yesterday, which was a picture was worth 1,000 words. So this one you had to actually open in Cami. Did anybody have trouble with Cami yesterday? I had two or three seniors that had some trouble with Cami, but I think they got it worked out. Okay. All right, so those are the two assignments that you had to do this week. Okay. If you have not gotten those done, you need to get those done. You're going to have another one today, chain reaction. That one's actually not going to be due until tomorrow night, so you'll have some time. But what I want us to do right now, though, guys, is I want us to go back and I want us to look at the background information. So if you'll notice, you've got a folder there that says background information. When you click on that, and you don't have to because you're going to see it up here, it's going to be the PowerPoint. Okay? Now, there will be some things that you're going to need to write down to be able to help you remember this. Now, guys, as I said, remember, we're setting the table for two big events, okay? Now, notice the title is Nationalism and New Imperialism. Well, there's a reason we call it New Imperialism, because we've already had one imperialism before. And if you'll remember, that's when we first started this class probably in September when we talked about imperialism. And it's where those countries, starting with Spain and Portugal, but also including Great Britain and France, are going to try to find a new route to get to Southeast Asia. So remember, the first guy is going to go down and he's going to stop at the tip of Africa. Then you're going to have another guy that's going to round the tip of Africa. And eventually you're going to find someone that actually gets to India. Well, then you're going to have another country that's going to decide, which is going to be Spain, hey, instead of us going around Africa, let's just go the other direction and go west to see what we can find west. And when they went west, that's where they discovered the New World. Okay? So that imperialism started out being, we're going to find a route to get these products. Okay? Now we move further in the world, and now we're not going to find new products. Now our imperialism is going to be, we're wanting to dominate these people. We're wanting to control these people, okay? But they are going to go in and get new products, but they're also wanting new territories, okay? This is going to be just about every country in Europe at this time is going to go out and have new countries or new territories, okay? So they're going to go back to those same areas. They're going to go back to Southeast Asia, and they're going to go back to Africa, okay? So why now? Why did this happen in the 1800s? Now, guys, remember, you have this, so you don't have to write everything down, but if something stands out, you'll want to know that, okay? So one of the reasons they wanted this new territory was to get those new materials, raw resources that they could use, okay? So one of the new raw resources they were going to use is rubber, okay? So we've just come through the Industrial Revolution. We've had several new things have been invented. So now we have the steam engine, we have the locomotive, we have these big cargo ships, okay? So what else is fixing to be invented? What other mode of transportation are we fixing to have? We don't have it quite yet, but what comes next? If we've got a train, and we've got a boat, what's going to come next?
Flight.
What?
Flight.
Before that. What's going to replace that horse and buggy? Cars. Okay? So we need cars. What's one of the things they need to be able to run a car besides an engine? Fuel. What else? What are they going to run on? Roll on? Wheels, right? Tires. Okay? So do you see where rubber would be important? What are they going to use rubber for? Making the tires. What are they going to use oil for? Well, but what can you convert oil into? You can convert oil into type of fuel, right? So gasoline or diesel fuel. Okay? And then they also need tin. Why would tin be important?
Body panels.
Do what?
Body panels.
Well, not so much on a vehicle, but at this point in time, they're learning how to preserve food. And if we preserve food, we need some way to keep it, right? So we can make tin cans that would keep the food that we've preserved. Okay? All right, so that's one reason is we need a place to get these raw materials, and we also need other markets to be able to sell these raw materials in. Okay? All right, what about another one there is, hey, if your rival gets it, I want it too, right? So think about somebody that you don't like, or you maybe even just think about your best friend. If they get something, do you not want it too? Or maybe something that's just a little bit better than they got? Okay, well that's the thinking was, hey, if England, Great Britain goes in and they get this territory and they're our rival, we can't let them just have something and us not. We're going to have to go get it. So that was their thinking there. Okay, another reason why they started this imperialism is called social Darwinism. Has anybody ever heard of Charles Darwin? Okay, Charles Darwin, he's going to be one that's going to believe in the evolutionary theory, but he's also going to say that the fittest people survive. Well, they're going to take that and apply it to the countries. A country that's the fittest, that's the strongest, that's the biggest, is going to be able to prevent other countries from defeating them. Guys, there is a saying that England never wanted the sun to set on their flag. So basically that meant that they were going to have, they were going to have colonies all over the world. So when the sun set in Australia, which was one of their colonies, the sun would still be shining in India. And when it set in India, it would be shining in Canada. And when the sun set in Canada, guess where it's going to be shining? It's going to be shining in Australia. So they wanted to be able to have colonies all over the world. That made them stronger. Okay? And then the other reason why now is racism. Those European countries, the people there, thought that they were better, smarter, stronger, any other adjective you want to put in there than the other people in the world, especially those people that lived in Africa and Southeast Asia. They felt that it was their duty to go and educate them, Christianize them, make them better people. Okay? That is called the white man's burden. That they had to go in and fix these people. Okay? So now, let's look at Africa really quick. Okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this. Let's look at Africa, guys. You'll look there at that top line, about 1880. Okay, so that's going to be about 30, 35 years before World War I starts. Okay? If you'll notice, all of those countries had some type of a hold on Africa. Okay? So you'll notice you've got those big countries of Great Britain, France, Germany. But then you have some of the smaller countries like Belgium and Portugal are actually going to go in and try to control parts of Africa. Okay? So the first part is West Africa. The Europeans had already been there. This is where they got their slaves from. But they only went to the coast. Well, guys, by them going there, they knew what was there. They knew some of those raw resources were there, raw materials were there, so they're going to go in and get those. And they're going to start settling those areas. Okay? So let's jump across the country from West Africa. Let's go to East Africa. And there's something that's there in East Africa that at the time was kind of a marvel. It's called the Suez Canal. It's in Egypt. Now, have y'all ever heard of the Panama Canal? Okay, it's in Panama, and basically what happens is it just makes the route from the east coast of the United States to the west coast of the United States very fast. Okay, used to before that was made, a ship would have to travel from, let's just say, Virginia, all the way down, go to the bottom of South America, and then come back up to go to California. But when they built the Panama Canal, then they could just cut through canals, just like a lock on a river, where they would push them through, and it would cut off like 2 months of the trip. Well, guys, they built a canal in Egypt called the Suez Canal. What that's going to do is it's going to make it so that ships no longer have to go all the way around the bottom of Africa to get to the Middle East. Now they can just travel through the Mediterranean Sea, through the Suez Canal, and now they're in the Middle East. So it cuts down the trip. Great Britain wanted to control that. Because that means if a war breaks out, their ships can go, but is they going to let anybody else go through? Not if it's their enemy. And then also, they could use it for money. You want to go through, you pay to go through. Okay? And then France and Italy are going to start colonizing the north part of Africa. So, as you can see, guys, we've already got three of the areas covered of Africa. Now let's go and look at the central part, okay? The central part of Africa, nobody had really went in there. They didn't know what was there, kind of scared about what's there. But what happened? Have y'all ever heard of Dr. David Livingstone and Henry Stanley? Has anybody ever heard of them? Okay. Well, Livingstone had been hired by a country, Belgium, to go in and kind of map out the middle part of Africa. Find out what's there, provide us maps, so if we find something, you find something that's good, we can send people back. Well, he was gone for several years, stopped hearing from him. So they thought something had happened. So then they turned to Stanley, and they asked him to go find, investigate, figure out what happened to Livingstone, and continue his work. Well, guys, he finds Stanley, but in addition to finding him, they also find a lot of natural resources. So Belgium is going to go in and start colonizing that area. Okay? Germany has kind of been sitting back. Germany's got its own problems at the time, and we'll discuss that next week. But Germany's trying to unite as a country, but they're being pushed that if all these other European countries are colonizing Africa, they need to also. Okay? But when Germany goes in and almost causes a war. So all these European nations kind of have to sit down and kind of make out a peace agreement so that it doesn't come to a war. Okay? Now let's jump to South Africa. Okay? Guys, there's something in South Africa that's very, very valuable, and that's diamonds. Well, South Africa had been controlled by a group called the Boers. They were left over from Belgium. The Boers were controlling South Africa, which meant they also controlled the diamonds. Great Britain found out about it. Great Britain wanted it. Great Britain sends people in. War breaks out. It's called the Boer War. And then we're left with Great Britain defeating them. So now they're going to control the south part of Africa. Okay? That bottom line down there, you need in your notes, okay? Or you need to commit that to memory. By 1914, and that is the year that World War I starts, all but 2 countries in Africa had been colonized by a European country. Those 2 countries that had not were Liberia and Ethiopia. Now, guys, Liberia is special. Liberia is actually owned by the United States. It was set up as a colony for former slaves. So their plan was, once the slaves were set free after the Civil War, they were going to load all those former slaves up on a ship, take them back to Africa, where they said they were from, and dump them off. But guys, here was the problem. All of those slaves who were set free after the Civil War in 1865, they never came from Africa. Their ancestors did, but they didn't. So they were not in favor of, hey, let's go on over there. Some did, but most of them said, I had just rather live here. Okay? So now I want you to show you a map here. If you'll look at that map, this is a map of Africa in 1914. And you can see all of those European countries there down the left-hand side. Which countries control the most? France, which is the green, and who else? And Great Britain, which is the orange color. If you'll notice, you've got the 2 gray ones there. Liberia here on the left, and then you've got Ethiopia on the right, which is actually not named Ethiopia there, it's by a different name. But those are going to be the only 2 countries that are never controlled by another nation. Okay? All right, so now